sidebar there with our city engineer. We'll go ahead and get started with the work session. Boy, I tell you what, I don't know if I've ever seen this much paper up here on the dais in front of me. I don't know where to start tonight. We're going to go ahead and start with a presentation by Fairhope High School. I see Principal John Cardwell here, and he's going to give us a little talk about what they're doing with the 3 meal tax.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burrell. I think a lot of paper is good news, I'll tell you that. First of all, I put our budget on there, and I wanted you to kind of have an idea of what the 3 meal money is going for. First of all, let me tell you how appreciative we are that the citizens of Fairhope did this. It has changed education at Fairhope High School, and you're going to see it's changing at the middle school. When Angie gets up here, it's allowing us to do some extra things that other schools can't do, and we just appreciate y'all for it. Also, let me take this time to thank Sherry and the council for all our venues that y'all have showing up and having that look that good. I appreciate that. Bottom of my heart, I do. I'm not cutting grass right now. First of all, you look at the budget, you'll see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers added to our allotment that the state and the county give us for local units. And this is we're able to do a lot of ACT prep. ACT, you might remember, is the test. It's a college entrance exam, and it's also used as a barometer against the other schools in the state. And Fairhope High School did not disappoint again this year. But I do want to explain, because it was questioned by one of the members of the 3 meal committee in our last meeting. I rearranged teachers fiscally. I take my lowest paid teachers and put them on the 3 meal budget instead of having one of my expensive teachers on there, because that can save $20,000. Hiring a teacher now with benefits, about $90,000 for if they've got 4 or 5 years experience. So that's what I do. I do a little shifting on that. So they were questioning why it looked different this year, and I wanted to make sure I told you that. We're doing some different things this year. The biggest critic is I don't love the arts. I love athletics. You'll see on here there's not a dollar given to athletics, but you can go down through there. I've given money to the band program. Give $70,000 to the band program this year. Instruments, a tuba is $13,000. So they're breaking their back trying to get these things. So we kicked in a pretty good bid, and they do a good job. What's on here also, the K1 money with the deal with the city, they got an additional $40,000 for a new drum kit this year. It's not on here, it's another budget, but we got line items for dance, choir, piano. You can see that. One thing I'm doing to kind of help our parents out this year, because they're the ones giving this to us, so we decided we were going to kick in on the testing fees. When they do IB testing, AP testing, PSAT, we're going to contribute money to that, because if you have a kid taking 4 AP classes, they're looking at $400 in the spring just to finish up and take those tests. So we're able to allocate $55,000 just to help out the parents as kind of a thank you for what you're doing for us, and also selfishly get those kids those college scholarships so they can better themselves as well. Second page, you see we've got items for our social worker nurses. Everybody thinks that if you live in Fairhope, there's no poverty. Our school is riddled with poverty, and our social worker and our nurses are busy, and so we try to help them out. I've got some citizens that donate to us individually for that, but that's just to supplement kind of all the help they're giving us. Got a guitar class. I had to add him on there. The guy's awesome. If you get a chance, come to a guitar concert. So we've got a lot going on, but I wanted to get you to the Fairhope High School ACT scores. In 2018, Fairhope High School had a 22.1. We went through COVID. We dropped. It made us mad. So since we've enacted the 3 meal, there's been a steady climb in our ACT scores. And that is every student at Fairhope High School takes the ACT. This isn't just the college bound. This is every junior takes this. And you can see that our composite this year was a 22, up from a 21.6, up from a 21.8, a 20.1. So our kids are really crushing it. And there's a lot of data there and a lot of numbers, but you can see that we went up in every area. English, science, writing, math, every score went up from the previous year. So this year's senior class is who took this exam, so I'll be bragging on them when we get to the end too. Third page is our warts. We are not perfect at our school. When you look at, we broke it down by ethnicity. I've got some issues that we need to cover, just like Angie's going to get up and talk about at her school. We fight the same battle. This is not good enough for us. I want every group achieving and going as high as they can. We're actually going to hire intervention teacher this year that is just going to work with our targeted group in the 9th grade and then hopefully spill down to the 8th grade with Angie so that we can keep these kids on track. It's heartbreaking when they get to their senior year and athletically, let's say, they're talented enough to go to college, but academically they're not. That doesn't do for me. So we're going to make sure we're going to start catching these kids early and put them in a position where they can go leave Fairhope and then come back and raise your kids. Jack, this is the one you're going to love on the last page. Last year, we were 3rd in the state in proficiency in some areas in English. We were crushing the schools that I've always been told we need to compete with Hoover. Well, we crushed them. We need to compete with Vestavia. We crushed them. Need to compete with Mountain Brook. They were looking up at us last year. This year's academic achievement is 3 points higher than it was last year. So we haven't gotten the official results from the state. This is my curriculum leader, who's a data freak, broke this down. And I've been sitting on this to tell you guys first before I send this out to parents. But we're looking next year when all the data comes out, people will be looking up at Fairhope again, just like they have been. So anyway, I just want to tell you, your $3 million money is being well spent at Fairhope High School, and we're seeing great results, and data doesn't lie. So I just want to thank you guys for that. You have any questions?
What took you so long?
I swear, Jack, it's a lot, but we're getting there.
Questions? Questions for Principal Caldwell?
Oh.
Really thank you for all you're doing and all your staff, and all your teachers, everybody, nurses, all of them,
Yeah.
social workers,
I got
really
the best job
appreciate
in the
it.
world, so I appreciate it. I'll pass that on. Thank you.
You're always enthusiastic
Yeah.
about it, so I know you love it.
Nah, I do.
You got questions, guys?
Thank you, absolutely.
Corey knew we had a meeting tonight, right? Looking on Corey. All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, John. All right. Next will be a presentation with Fairhope Middle School Principal Angie Hall. Hey, Angie.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Angie Hall, principal at Fairhope Middle School, and I'd just like to say I am thrilled to be part of Fairhope Pirates. I am a Golden Bear by heart, but I am a pirate now.
We're working on
And you're working on it. 15 years I've been here, and I just love how this community just gets behind all of the Fairhope schools. We're all A schools, and we just continue to grow. We're outdoing whatever anybody asks us to do. So I'm very pleased with that. My presentation is going to sort of sound the same because I didn't really change anything. I just renewed a lot of people with my 3 meal tax because I want some longevity in there. I did a lot of intervention teachers for Fairhope Middle School. We scored a 95 on our ACAP scores this year. That's the Alabama Comprehensive Assessment Program. And we scored in the top 4 in the state of Alabama, so that's pretty good. I thought that was pretty good also. But the things that we have been doing with our money, it starts on page 4, I think. 4 or
Let me
5.
go back. Did you say top 4?
In the state of Alabama. That's pretty good. And that's sort of comparing ourselves with a lot of charter schools and, well, not charter schools, but the Vestavia Hills of schools. So, but if you look at the data, you can see that we outscored anything in the state of Alabama. Our scores were higher than, and our county scores it was higher than. If you look at the data in the district, I'm not going to go over all of this. I just want to see if you can see this page right see here where it says proficiency percentages, and if you can see our 7th grade ELA, we scored a 75%. Our county scored a 60%, and Alabama, the state scored 51%. 8th grade ELA, Fairhope Middle School scored an 83%. Baldwin County scored a 57%, and Alabama, the state scored 51%. In our math, our 7th grade scored a 59%. Our county scored 32%, and our state scored 24%. And in math, our Fairhope Middle School scored 75% to our county's 33% and our state's 23%. And I tell you, this is all due to that 3 meal tax money. I can't if you can get intervention teachers to concentrate on the children that's failing, the children that's not doing homework, the children that's just not succeeding in school, and you can get a class that helps those students individually, they're going to do better, and they do better. They do better. Local funding, 3 meal tax. We have intervention teachers, instructional aides, pirate boost, social workers, and professional development. And, you know, a lot of people want to talk about professional development, but I love Alabama, but there's more out there that we can be successful in, too, at other places that we go around the nation. And we have brought some of those things back to Fairhope Middle School, other strategies that they're doing out there. Local fundings, we have our intervention teachers. We got 2 math, and one for 7th grade, one for 8th grade, and we have 2 language arts, one for 7th grade, one for 8th grade. And these are teachers that literally have the group of students in their classroom, and they spend the time teaching and reteaching the information needed for these children. So if you look through you can see our intervention teachers, and each one of them wrote some. If you have time, a little time for reading, that's be some good reading for you. We also have a pirate boost teacher. She is there to help children who don't get the help at home with homework. If they're missing homework, if they're having failing grades, she's in the room. She has a room where she gets these children and works with them so they don't have to take it home. They can finish their work at school. And we also have another tutor. She is in our OCS room for the children who's misbehaving. She is giving them the instruction that that they're missing in their class, but she is a certified teacher, and I was able to hire a principal, an administrator a retired administrator that taught language arts and math. So, and last but not least, our social worker. She has made great strides for our school, and I'm just so proud that we've had the funding to keep her here, and we have stretched it out. So that's why I keep a little money in that rollover so we can keep her at our school at Fairhope Middle School. But I just have to say thank you so much, and we haven't done anything different except we did get a 95 on our ACAP. We're very proud of that, and you can see where your tax dollars are going. They are going to make Fairhope school system a better school system, and I'm very proud to be part of it, and thank y'all so much. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Hall? We're even quicker than John.
I know it. He said everything I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job to you and your staff, too. Next item will be a presentation for the master plan for the south parcel of Flying Creek Nature Preserve by Thompson Engineering.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think it's still afternoon. I'm Christopher Grant with Thompson Engineering. This is Aaron Steele. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm Aaron Steele with Taylor Trails.
I've got about a 200-page slide deck I want to run through with y'all.
All right, well, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, we're going to keep this short and sweet. I'm going to move pretty quickly. This is a presentation we gave to our steering committee. I just want to thank y'all. If y'all remember, when we wrapped up the master plan for Phase 1, the north parcel, we gave a presentation to City Council, and y'all were adamant about making sure that we were on top of a master plan for the south parcel. So we've done that over the last several months. We brought Taylor Trails to the team just knowing their expertise in bike trail design and construction. Taylor Trails is out of Atlanta. I'll let Aaron introduce his firm.
Okay, well, like you said, I'm based in Atlanta. I work all over. We're actually helping build the trails on the south parcel right now. That's how Christopher and I got associated originally. And, you know, we enjoy working here, and we're members of the Professional Trail Builders Association, and excited to show you this presentation.
And this is a little recap that y'all have seen before, so I'm going to move pretty quickly. Y'all have seen these historical aerials. We've got 76 acres on the north parcel that abuts Fly Creek, and then the south parcel's the 32 acres, as shown here. This has been very collaborative. We work very closely with many city staff as well as a steering committee. Just an update, if y'all recall, this is the master plan. Happy to let y'all know that this project will be complete, the park portion of this project, by the end of this month. Even though we're seeing a lot of folks use it, we're really excited. We know they're excited. These are some renderings. These are all under construction right now. If y'all recall, focus was hiking trails on the north parcel, multi-use. We really looked at and tried to implement low-impact development techniques throughout the design, preserve as many trees as possible, trailhead features, the landscape. The city has done a fantastic job managing the habitat out there. As y'all have seen, Justin and his team recently did a burn of all 76 acres. We'll have amenities, signage is to come, so that'll be part of the next phase. And these are actually some older progress photos, but as I mentioned, these will be completed within the next week or so. Just to give you an update, tunnel project's complete. Park project will be completed. Nature Center, we're looking around July. The city received additional Go Mesa fundings for Phase 2. So Phase 2 will be additional elements on the north parcel. The roundabout is under construction. The active park, which is what we're calling the south parcel, we're here to present the master plan to you all today. We still have to go through design and bidding of that, and then obviously habitat management is ongoing. So focusing on the south parcel, these are the program elements that were determined that we wanted to see. So we had a pretty intense goal of 3.5 miles of mountain biking trails. We didn't think we were going to be able to achieve that. Aaron and his team actually went out and mapped the existing trails. As you know, several high school students and others in the community built some existing trails. That ended up being about 1.5 miles, so we're actually saving the majority of those trails and enhancing those, and we will be able to add to that to get a total of 3.5 miles. Similar goals and objectives, making sure we're maintaining the existing habitat. We don't want to go in and clear cut vegetative buffers. Big part of this is tourism and economic activity. There is a big mountain biking community that people travel all throughout the state. These trails will be very unique to our region. There aren't what we classify as adventure trails around here that offer more extreme jumps and features. So we're trying to keep that and do it safely. And then design with nature, implement LID techniques. These are some images of the trails as they sit today. There's some pretty sketchy ramps. The community of kids that helped build this actually coined it Pine Hills Mountain Bike Trails, and they mapped their trails out. We were able to go out. I don't think any of us will be doing jumps this high, so we're trying to make sure that we balance kind of the safety aspects with, multiple uses. So I'll just go through some of these. They have some really interesting features like this Dirt Don't Hurt picture. That was the name of one of the trails. We want to see if we can't save this and use it in the new design. We know they put in a lot of work with these trails. There's some old carpet. They were pretty resourceful. Some asphalt that they dragged in there, some old carpet from somebody's house. I think these ramps were probably built with decks from Hurricane Sally that washed up. So they've been working hard, and we want to make sure. And really, the trail lines are pretty good. They've followed the topo the way they need to follow. Aaron's team went out and mapped all the existing trails. This is the existing conditions. I'm going to move to this site. So we always start off with an inventory and analysis. We got about 75 feet of fall on this site. So what you see, all the colorful lines, that's their trails and actually how they named them. They've got 1.5 miles. There's an old gully that was actually rerouted through the site at one point. They started losing too much land, and so Mr. Dias actually mentioned that they filled in a portion of it, and so it's really a dry gully. It moves some water, but it's not of the size that you would anticipate when you see it in scale. Another feature to note is the large flat area. Really, that's just, taking a look at the contours and understanding. So that relates to, okay, what kind of buildable features do we want to look at in that flat area? We're also looking at things like current access points. If you all know, you've seen people park along Triangle Drive. They typically enter the site at that midpoint and they're riding their bikes. And then also to note that the roundabout there under construction, with the access tunnel, you can see where that falls along Veterans Drive. So this is our conceptual master plan and how we hope to achieve 3.5 miles worth of trail. We're going to break this up for y'all in terms of the different trail types. So I'll walk you through some of that. And then there's things like a bike skills playground and a pump track. I'll give you examples of what that actually is. But the idea is there's a main entrance off of Triangle. It's actually across from Colonial Drive at Colonial Acres. A big portion of this was making sure that we preserve existing vegetative buffers along the edges, similar to what we've done on the north parcel, so that you don't see all of this infrastructure and it still feels like a trail through the woods. We've got a trail hub and a pavilion. One thing we heard from the steering committee was it would be really nice to have some kind of tool shed. Right now they just have a makeshift tarp and they're storing tools out there. I think it would be advisable that there was some sort of locking tool shed that people could come out here and have work days. Connectivity to the north parcel is very important, and then also connectivity along Triangle Drive getting into the site. And I'll explain some of these features. So starting at the left, bottom left, we've got the multi-use trail, the tunnel. There's where that gully was, if y'all remember, we're proposing what's called a bike bridge. So it's essentially where bikers will be able to go under as well as over a trail feature, and that really kind of serves as a hub at that location. We've got what's called a viewing perch. Obviously, we don't have mountains, but the idea is potentially there could be a deck offset of this over bridge that people could set up a GoPro, or they could film their friends or take pictures. Really looking at the architecture, we think we need at least another pavilion, a large outdoor classroom similar to what we have on the north parcel. I'll let Aaron explain a bike playground and a pump track. We also have a restroom pavilion. So if you think about, there'll be a restroom at the Nature Center. We have a restroom at the carriage trail at the end of there, and then there'll be another restroom on this parcel. And then we're also proposing an adventure play area, and I'll show y'all some examples of that. Aaron, you want to speak to the bike playground and pump track?
Sure. So the bike playground are a series of features, both dirt and wood or concrete, that are used. They're used to replicate some of the skills that you would use when you're actually out on the trails. So you have small drops or small skinny rails that you would have to navigate, and they're usually designed so they're on a smaller scale where they're for beginners, they're for people trying to build up their skills and trying to learn how to ride their bike safely. They're also good for warm-ups. A pump track is usually an oval-shaped or triangular-shaped structure with a series of rollers and berms that allow you to use your body weight and your momentum, so you're not actually having to pedal all your way through. You're actually able to pump and use your body weight to kind of push your way through it and roll through there. And it's a great way to exercise, and it's great for kids. And it's not limited to bikes either. We have a lot of kids that use scooters and skates and everything else on those sorts of structures.
And if y'all remember, both of those elements, as well as the playground, are within that flat area we identified. So we would manipulate some of the features to be able to do so, but we also want to make sure that these are not cleared sites, that we're weaving in and out of the existing trees that are in that location. The mayor and several others were very adamant that this is not 100% bike trails, that there needs to be multi-use trails. We've worked to identify, okay, what's the most direct routes to get from the parking lot to the tunnel to the north parcel. And we think that this route, it gives us about another mile of what we're calling shared use multi-trails. So there, bikes will be allowed. The design of these trails will be of a speed that's safe, and so that you can, and wide enough that you can have walkers and bikers along the trail at the same time. And then we've got things like climbing trails. So you go down a hill, you got to figure out a way back up. It makes most sense to separate those so that people aren't coming in conflict, because there will be heavier speeds or faster speeds, you know, going down some of these tracks. Intermediate trails, Aaron, you want to speak to any of these features?
Sure. So the intermediate trails are a lot of what's out there now. It's what's most commonly referred to as flow-style trails. These are not necessarily flat. They have some undulation. They have some smaller features, maybe a small drop, under 24 inches. They're meant to be unidirectional, so that's why you see the arrows and the need for the climbing trails. That way we don't have a lot of two-way traffic, and we don't have a lot of safety issues with conflicts and people going in different directions. And allows us to build it in a way that it's fun, it's flowing, it's great for people that have some abilities and some experience to get out and ride, and especially utilize a lot of this terrain that we have out here. So.
And then we have several advanced trails, about 0.7 miles worth of that you want to speak to?
And so if you saw the precedent images, you saw the kids that are they want to build these massive jumps, and they want to build huge, and a lot of those kids have a lot of experience, and they're the ones that have really been dedicated and put their blood, sweat, and tears into this place and are out there on their own accord. And so their big focus was they don't want us to sanitize everything they've built, but we have to do it in a way that's going to be safe, not building ramps out of pallets and that sort of thing. So we want to take some of what they've built and add to it and give them some more options and provide a place for those kids and those other people that have these higher level of skills that they're going to want to come and ride. Because when people see videos and photos of this place, most of the time this is what they're going to see. Are these more advanced trails, people wanting to show off, people wanting to ride a more technical or more challenging trail, and that will bring people from farther away.
And that was one thing we heard, from the mountain biking community, is there was really nowhere in Lower Alabama that they could come get these advanced trail rides, which is why they were so excited about the work that they were able to do on the south parcel previously. So when they talked about Blakely State Park and some of these other areas that they are able to ride local, they just don't have these extreme features. So I think we wanted to do it, but balance it with safety. Some precedent images, as I mentioned, pavilion structures. We also looked at some where, a pavilion could be attached to a tool shed or something like that. So these all need to still be designed. The most important thing is it will be in the character of what we built on the north parcel. We want to make sure it's all consistent throughout the park. Same thing with the trailheads. These are some other options for tool shed. It's also serves as like a lightning shelter if you're out there and you're away from the parking lot, somewhere that somebody can go and be safe out there. These are some of the skills elements. I'll let Aaron speak to these.
Right. So you'll see a series. Some of these things will be included. Others will be smaller and similar to bike skills areas features, but you'll see some drops, some of these ride walls that are the larger curved walls that we can build in lieu of a dirt berm. So if we have a sharper turn that's needed or something on a steeper bank, we can build some of these structures, and you'll see some of the people that are kind of riding higher up on those walls. That will give them a way for us to turn the trail more sharply in an area that's fairly steep, and they could still ride through there and navigate safely.
Similarly, some examples of the over-under bridge, and then the idea of some sort of deck at a viewing platform, what we're calling a viewing perch. More examples here.
Right. So these are larger pump tracks. Obviously, these can scale from as small as maybe a 20 by 40 oval, all the way up to an entire parking lot size with multiple lines and alternating directions. What we have proposed on the south parcel is relatively modest. It's supposed to be smaller. It's for beginners. We want people to bring the kids out, people with less experience to come out and experience some of that and get a taste for, how to ride.
Yeah, and really the idea of, offering something to do for all age groups, whether you're an advanced mountain bike trail rider or if, you're a grandmother and you're looking for something to do with your grandkids for the day to be able to go out here, ride the pump track or go to the adventure playground. This is some examples of an adventure playground. Climbing wall structures. These would all be low to the ground, so nothing crazy. We've seen a lot of, like, if you think of it like these obstacle courses you've seen with ropes and, no extreme zip lines or anything like that. But just nature-based play, using your imagination. They make all these features now where it's usually made out of some kind of recycled product. Unlike the old Fairhope Community Park where maintenance gets a little easier when you're, not using real wood products, but just trying to give some options so that this element would be placed next to the playground as well as the restroom and pavilion area so that, if somebody wanted to go out and let their kids play within a little fenced-in area of the adventure playground, that would be a really nice feature. And then, so next steps, we're looking for approval of this master plan from you all as city council. We will still have to go into design, development, and construction document phases, obviously bidding and construction following that. But wanted to thank you all for your time. See if y'all had any questions. I'll get back to kind of the master plan, and appreciate everything y'all have done.
Questions or comments, council?
Yeah, first, the north side is looking fantastic. Can't wait for that to get open. Can't wait to start this. And this is one of the projects I'm most excited about in the whole city is this whole 108 acres. Just a couple questions on this. One, I think having multi-use trails is important in this area. So I'm picturing that kind of the wider trails, almost like if you're down by the bay and you've got the wider sidewalks and some people riding bikes, some people walking, it's flat, people can maneuver around. Because obviously the steeper, narrower, you can't have those as multi-purpose. But squeezing 3.5 miles worth of trails onto 30 to 35 acres, that's a lot. Are y'all good with that number? I mean, does that seem like it's too crowded, or does that seem like a reasonable amount of trails for that size acreage?
It's on the aggressive side a little bit, but I don't think any of these trails, when you're out there, we have enough density of foliage that it's not going to be, you're just standing on one line and then there's another line 5 feet over from you. There's enough separation, we feel like, in all of these lines that it won't feel very crowded.
Okay, I just don't want to lose the natural setting, natural feel to
Right.
it. And then the other is probably more of a lawyer question. I mean, I know we're stepping into this, and I think it's great to have something for everybody to use, but from a liability perspective, any concerns with all these adventures? Direct
Well, it is,
911
I mean, it is
lines?
public property, so you run that risk, but there are specific statutory protections that are provided to recreational use like this, which is a perfect example. So there's some very strong statutes that would be intending to protect the city from many claims. Obviously, it's not a, still may have some
But
claims
if
that pop
you're
up
going
out
on a
there.
mountain bike trail that has jumps and things like that, you're
Assuming the
pursuing at
risk,
your own-
absolutely,
Okay.
particularly with the city, in the way it's set up, there's a lot of protections in place.
And the design that we had chosen, I think we were trying our best to not take away from what the kids had designed, but maybe scale it back just a little bit for safety. They've got
One or two
some-
in there that
they've
you
got-
look at
They've
and
got
like,
some big jumps,
Yeah,
like big gap jumps. And to be honest, the gap jumps may go away, but they'll still have enough big features, and we'll try to build a lot of it out of natural materials, dirt and that sort of thing, where, you know, I think it'll be much safer than it is now.
My question was the liability, but I used to do. Never tell my parents what I was doing, so I could do it. Oh, well, there may be use for direct 911 call line.
Yeah, we'll have some
100
call
feet or so.
boxes out there.
Emergency services at the house.
Well, my questions were, my concern was much the same as Jimmy's first concern, was the density of the bike trails. You know, the idea for this property has changed several times over the years. The Can administration envisioned that being botanical gardens for one item. The Wilson administration, they envisioned that as, say, like a wedding venue with maybe some other structure in it. And now it's gone to, it looks like full-on mountain biking trails. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if I like that, because I think that for 30, I think it's 38 on the south and 70 on the north.
70,
But
36.
36.
well, I know what that says, but I'm not sure how accurate that is. I think it's pretty heavy in the mountain biking, and I think we're catering to a small portion of the population. I did take note that you said it would bring tourism here. I think you're probably exactly right. It would be unique, and in that respect, that may be good. Maybe it's got to grow on me, but I didn't envision it being used solely for biking, and that's what it looks like to me. It looks like that anybody on the committee was 100% in favor of biking, and I thought that we would have gotten a little more squeezed in there than mountain biking. That's my concern. And like I said, maybe that'll grow on me, but that's a biking park. That's all it is. It's a biking park. And I think that the vast majority of the people here aren't mountain bikers. So it's pretty tough, pretty harsh, but those are my opinion. It's been my opinion all along. I'm a little bit surprised to see that it's 100% biking.
Well, we tried our best to include as much of the multi-use trails and the parking lot, which will extend, you know, what's at the nature center, and they'll connect through that main line that goes to the tunnel. And then the inclusion of the playground and the bike skills area, those are gonna be for younger kids and for anyone that comes out. So we hope with those features that it will be more than just a handful of teenagers that wanna ride advanced bike trails. It'll be a lot of people, and there's stuff from everywhere from 5-year-old children to, you know, middle-aged folks that want to ride bikes.
I also am cautious to not glorify the trails that were built previously. That was public property, and people built 1 point what miles of trail. I mean, how about I come down here and put croquet in the parking lot of the Civic Center or whatever? That's just not allowable. It's just not allowable. And I don't want to glorify that. You can't do what you want with public property anytime you want to do it. And I think putting that out there in the public is, something needs to be said to counter that a little bit as well. I don't know how that happened, but I wasn't too impressed with that. Impressed with their work, for sure. And they may have done a really good job, but I don't think we can encourage that.
Jack, I'll remind you too that the north parcel, as it sits today, has about 3.5 miles worth of walking trails on it. And then there's phase 2, so additional trails could be added as well to that north parcel, so,
Which does, you know, to your point, it really does help.
yeah.
And maybe we won't even noticed that. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's got to grow on me. I just never envisioned it being what I deem practically 100% a biking park.
Understood.
Okay. Y'all have anything else? Any other questions? Anything else? No? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, Eric. And maybe Chris? Building condemnations discussion.
Okay. One of the things, there are a lot of different responsibilities in the building department. We handle a lot of different things. One of the things that we do is check for unsafe structures, dilapidated structures. And it's amazing. I think people would really be surprised how many of them we have around town. You don't really think about that a lot, but there are quite a few of them. So, talking to Chris, and the mayor and I talked to Chris because Hand Arundel has a program that they do for dangerous and unsafe structures. And I'm going to kind of go through what our current ordinance says, what are some of the struggles we have, and where I think there would be some benefit to implementing a formal program. So currently our ordinance has guidelines for the abatement and condemnation. If you look at the definition of what is a dangerous structure, it is an extremely high standard. So, looking at a house, you've got to have walls that are leaning or listing or buckling. Has to be 33% more damage or deterioration of the supporting structures. Improperly distributed floor, roof loads. Damage by wind, which we've torn down a couple recently that were leftovers from Hurricane Sally. We also had one up in Montrose that was a major fire, so we were able to get rid of those. The owners actually did that work. It has to have inadequate facilities for egress, but that's interior of the building, and we'll talk about that. Or parts that may fall or injure members of the public or public property. So the current ordinance list, you send certified registered mail to the last person assessed. You send it to the address of the property. You send one to all mortgagees of record, which requires a fairly detailed property search. You have to file notices of proposed liens and the status of the liens to current owner or owners, and then a legal description. You post a yellow sign at the house asking anyone with information in the neighborhood who knows the property owner to please call the city. And then we also have a page on the website where we will list, once we get through that process and we've actually called for a building to be condemned, we'll post photos and information. So some of the problems that we have is, number one, determining if the structure is condemnable. You all get the calls, I get the calls, the mayor gets the calls. There is a difference between abandoned and condemnable. If a building is intact, it is secure, people can't get into it, even if it's overgrown, even if it looks terrible, that doesn't mean that the building can necessarily be condemned. It has to meet those requirements of 33% or more damage, deterioration, leaning or listing walls. It has to be in a position where it appears that building is imminently about to fall. That is what meets a condemnable structure based on our current ordinance. One of the biggest problems we have are locating the property owner. One of the things, if you go to the notices, it says you are to send a letter to the address of the property. If I'm looking at condemning a building, that's an empty property, there's nobody there, I'm sending a letter to that location. And anytime we follow up, there's a notice, it's certified mail. There's a certified mail notice on the door of a vacant property that we have sent notice to, which means the owner is not getting that information and not being informed that we're wanting to condemn the property. So we have a lot of out-of-state or absentee owners, and it's a fairly, they have to do a detailed mortgage search, and Marcus and I have worked on this before, and it can take a lot of time to search through all those records. It can take a lot of time to get the information back, and then we have to send that person a notice. And if they're out of state or they're absentee, we're probably not a real high priority on their list, their property in Fairhope, and I had one that lived in Connecticut. It took forever to get a hold of that owner and actually get notice back that they received it. One of the other big problems we have is we have properties that have multiple owners, and a lot of times that happens where a parent passes away, they leave it to 4 children, equal shares. Well, to condemn it or for someone to, an owner to say that they're going to tear it down, they have to have the agreement of all 4 siblings. And getting 4 siblings to agree on much of anything is generally pretty difficult. So, you know, we get into now a protracted situation where we're waiting on them to do something, we're trying to notify them, get them to agree to handle things on their own. And the other thing, and I'm going to be extremely honest with you, having a system in place to track it and stay within the deadlines with just the nature of what we do every day, what every department does. I mean, we get phone calls and we're off chasing rabbits and putting out fires and dealing with things. This is something that is not unusual for it to fall by the wayside until I have time to circle back around to it when we're dealing with builders and developers and citizens who are mad at their neighbors, or we're dealing with drainage stuff. Having a system in place that can track it, put it on a calendar, and keep those dates in order so we know this date hits, all right, notification goes out. This date hits, we haven't heard from them, we send a notice to our legal team, and we are now going to go in front of the judge or the city council, request money to get bids, and to be able to take the building down. One of the reasons several of the reasons I want to request, part of looking at that definition that I read, it doesn't specifically address a public nuisance. So the other day I was walking around a house, it was actually about 2 weeks ago. I'm literally walking in waist-high weeds and I'm hearing stuff scurrying all around me, and there was a snake in that area. This is right next to an occupied house. If I'm a neighbor, I'm going to be concerned about that. That's not condemnable under our current ordinance because it doesn't list anything about nuisance structures or massively overgrown yards. That would solve a lot of our issues, and I think a revision to the ordinance would be something that would be very helpful for us, and I'm going to show you some photos here shortly.
Let me stop you for a
yes,
minute,
sir.
Eric. We don't have any ordinance that requires you to maintain your lawn in
The
this
city
town?
does not have a mow ordinance. And it hasn't, and all I can say is through my years here, that gets real tricky when you start requiring people to mow lawns and they don't mow the lawns. Then you get into the expense and the legal side of, do you send city employees? Do you have a contract with an outside lawn care company? How often do you mow that lawn? Do you do it once a month? Do you do it once every 3 months? So that's part of why historically that is not something that has come up, you know, in these discussions.
There are local communities that have those ordinances. I don't think we can find one to pattern it by, though.
Yeah. Yes. One of the other things it doesn't mention is fire hazards within the building. We have had examples of hoarding that we have gone into, and where it is piled paper and junk sky high in a house, and one spark, a lightning strike, a receptacle that shorts, and it's a matchbox. And there's nothing in the current ordinance that talks about anything within the building.
Nobody's there. We're providing power to the house.
Well, not
Nobody
necessarily.
paying the
Well,
bill.
and see, that's one thing, though, it kind of depends. I mean, you may have someone who, they're not living at the house, but they got a lot. I know of several houses that people still have furnishings in. They have power to that house because they want to keep it conditioned so that it doesn't, we don't have mold everywhere. So that's not unknown for that to be the case, where you do have power to the house because people want to keep the air conditioned. They don't want
I
stuff that they're
understand
storing
that,
in
but
there.
are those houses that are dilapidated and run down and need their yards mowed? If
Well,
they're
no, what
paying
I'm
for
talking about
electricity
is.
to keep the mold out.
It is, but what I'm talking about are houses that are packed full of things that aren't necessarily condemnable because the building's not falling down, it's not busted open where people can get in, but they've got stuff piled inside of it, and it's a fire hazard, or it could present a fire hazard, and that's not addressed in our current ordinance. which also talking about establishing some conditions where utilities can be disconnected. I don't know if that's possible. I'd like to, if we choose to do this, I'll sit down with the legal team and find out what are the limits or what are the parameters we can do that. Go through the review the process or the provisions to help accelerate the process. I am real cautious and twitchy about telling somebody to tear down a house because it is a very detailed legal process, and the last thing I want to do is stick my foot in the city's mouth and we wind up tearing down a house, and then we end up, because we haven't notified a third brother or sister that may have ownership in that house, and we have now bought a house. So I'm probably way overcautious about that, but that's just something that really is on my mind about when we're trying to track down these owners. I really want to be careful about putting the city in that position, which is why the help from the legal team is just hugely important to me, because it's a big legal step making somebody tear down a home. One other thing too, I'd like to kind of clear up, if we can, for rights of entry. What constitutes rights of entry for city staff? What can we do? I know to go into a home, we would have to have a warrant. And Marcus, correct me if we've had that discussion before. If I want to go into a house and the owner does not allow us, I would actually have to go to the judge and swear out a warrant. But what are the rules or what are the limits about walking a property? What are the limits of, can I go into a fenced backyard? Can I do these things to do an investigation? And I'd like to have for our team some more clear guidelines of what we are or are not permitted to do, and we can list that within the ordinance. So these are some examples of some of and actually this house was torn down recently because somebody purchased it and they're going to build a new house. But I always go do a pre-demo walkthrough, and this is a very common condition. It was like this all the way around that house, trying to hike through all that. And this is what actually prompted the original complaint from the nearby resident. That is another house, and that house is abandoned. It still has power on it. There's a tarp on the roof, which there's no building code guidelines on how long you can tarp a roof. I would like to establish something that states, and especially you can take into account natural disasters, absolutely, but limitations or information on what we can do with a roof that has been tarped, for a year and a half, 2 years. This house, the issue we've had with this house, it started out badly trashed in the front yard. They came in and cleaned it up. We talked to the owner. We're going to fix it. We're going to get things taken care of. Okay, we're working with you. We don't hear back from them for 6, 8 months or a year. Start putting pressure, send them another notification. We're about to tear it down. They come back out. Okay, did some work. We're going to mow the grass. We're going to get rid of the weeds. And you're about to get a work plan, and we're going to fix this. I don't hear from them again for months and months. So going through the legal process of, in the meantime, around the back of this house, as far as I could see from the neighbor's property, they let me go in. Now that we've got a hole in the roof on the backside, and we got water flooding inside, which is now condemnable because it's open to the elements. But going through the process and taking a firm time frame of, okay, you've got this amount of time, you can promise me everything you want. If you're not going to do it, we're going to hire somebody and we're going to tear the house down. Because that also is a haven for critters and raccoons and rats and all of these things for the surrounding properties. So this is the program, and you've actually got a hard copy. If you don't want to read it on here, I handed everyone a hard copy. But this is the program that we were presented with, and it is something that it is structured. Hand Arundel is already one of our legal team. They have a structure to this. They've researched the legal ends of it. They've had court cases, and I'm going to ask Chris to tell me to be quiet or correct me if I say something incorrectly. This has been tested. We've had court cases where this program has been adjudicated and has been found to be proper and effective. And talking about, abatement or remediation of old properties, it's not always tear down. You can fix them, but the issue you're going to have there is having an owner who wants to invest the money to actually repair or fix a structure. A lot of times it could just be simpler or cheaper just to tear it down and sell the property. And in Fairhope, that actually happens a lot because the lots are expensive. It's less expensive to spend $10,000, $15,000 tearing it down and then try and sell the lot for $200,000 or $300,000. So this is, in going through this, these are the kind of things that we battle, is keeping it timely, making sure we have crossed all the legal Ts and dotted the Is before we bring in contractors to give us costs. We generally get 3 quotes as to the cost to tear down and haul this off. And that's when I've been before the council on several of them asking to appropriate the money that we could pay that contractor and then put a lien on the property when we're done. And I'm assuming that would be much the same process here. And Chris, I'm going to ask you if you would kind of explain anything that I've misstated or anything I missed.
Yeah, Council, and I know you have a lot still to go through the work session, so I'm going to keep this very brief. I think Eric addressed it well. But frankly, the current ordinance was enacted in 2011. It does a lot, but it leaves a lot of gaps. One of my partners in the Birmingham office implemented this program and has rolled it out. It's a comprehensive program, has rolled it out through dozens of municipalities of all sizes across the state. It has been challenged and successfully defended the Alabama Supreme Court and the Court of Civil Appeals. And it is very much a hand-holding, for so to speak, with the city staff in terms of helping them through this process. For a flat fee, the firm provides a license, and that's one of the reasons it's set up this way. The firm copyrights the material, but a license for the city to use 15 different types of customized forms. Among those forms is the ordinance, which will completely remove and replace the existing ordinance and beef up many sections of the existing ordinance in a way that is more effective and more useful for the city. Whereas Eric mentioned the definition in the current ordinance has about 6 different criteria for what may be considered triggered under the existing ordinance. Our ordinance has about 15 different types of criteria, any one of which could trigger certain provisions under the ordinance to allow the city to step in. The plan and the intent for the process is to give the owners an abundance of notice of all sorts. So part of the intent of the program is for my firm to help with the title search and make sure all the notices is performed and all the notice and plenty of opportunities for the owner to step up, do the right thing and come into compliance with the ordinance. And that is why time and time again it's been challenged and successful, because basically the evidence is we gave this. Here is the laundry list of notices that we provided to the owner, giving them every opportunity and chance to address this issue in a timely fashion. And so just quickly, the firm has set up this program. They're very proud of it. It's been successful across the state. And really it provides kind of a pathway for Eric and his team to be able to go through this and have a lot of assistance. The flat fee is $1,750 just for all of the forms. There's built-in hourly inclusion with some of that. I know that would be one of your questions, Council President.
I'm surprised it's so cheap.
It really is. But now, in terms of like if we have to go to litigate and that sort of thing, there's going to be hourly component or standard rate would apply in addition to that. But really the plan is to have the new ordinance in place, gives a lot of more tools in the tool chest for the city, sets forth in black and white all the notice requirements and provisions that have been supported by the cases and the court decisions in the statutory framework, just to make sure all of the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and there's many examples of many municipalities that have done this and had either a complete tear down necessary, assessed the fee against the owner and collected it, took over the property, turned around and resold it. I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities that are options for the city in terms of tools to go through this process.
And also, I'll say, understand that we're paying fees now, because Marcus and I, how many of these have we worked on together? I mean, we've worked on a lot of them, and we've got, we're doing title searches, and we're doing all of those things, and trying to stay in touch. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the delay, I'll take responsibility for it. I'm overly cautious, and being able to circle back around to it with just the daily rush of everything that's going on, having a structure in place that helps keep this at the top of the list for everybody. And it's a concern to a lot of our citizens. And, like I said, I think I've heard from several of you with complaints from citizens. I know the mayor and I have talked about it multiple times. So, I'm not trying to not do anything about it. It's just trying to keep it on track and keep the train moving in an orderly fashion. And that's sometimes been tough to do.
What is the ordinance that you have, the draft ordinance, would just basically, we would repeal and replace their existing ordinance? Is it that comprehensive?
It is.
We don't even, just
Yes.
feeling, it's that ready to go, huh?
It is that ready to go. Again, it's been rolled out in dozens of municipalities. Now, we customize it for Fairhope, and if you have any special revisions, we can certainly, adopt and implement those.
And it covered most of Eric's concerns, or all of Eric's concerns. We talked about grass mowing, and we talked about fire hazards and power to houses, and.
We didn't practice this before, so I haven't gone through and vetted everything he went through, but yes, I'm comfortable that a lot of the expansive definitions and options in what would be the new ordinance would accomplish everything that he is. I will say it's not going to expedite the process. He mentioned that. I think our process may be a little bit longer, but it's so black and white that is the process. But once it's defensible, and once you get to the end of the process, you have no heartburn in pulling the trigger because you've done everything set out that needs to be done to get to that point.
Well, and I will say that probably it could have the effect of expediting the process because it keeps the train moving at a steady clip. It doesn't stop, it doesn't slow down, it doesn't accidentally fall through the cracks because we're running in 500 directions. It keeps the process moving, which that's fine. As long as the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, I've told multiple people, we've had a lot. And luckily, 4 out of 5 times, with pressure and continuing to call and dealing with it, most people take care of it themselves. They tear it down themselves. They pay for it because they don't want to lean on their property. This is for that 1 in 5, maybe 2 in 10, or whatever that, or 30% that we get no response from. They're not here. They're not interested. They don't care from wherever they live, or they're intent on continuing just to put the issue off until somebody holds their feet to the fire. And so those are the ones I'm going to continue. We continue to do this and get people to try to do it on their own without it having to cost the city anything. But these are for the cases that they're just not interested in doing it.
Councilman Conyers?
I'm in favor of moving ahead with that. I don't particularly like eminent domain issues, but I see this as being a different situation to me. You have to have some ability to enforce that for the sake of other property owners nearby. And I do actually get calls on this from time to time about properties, and I'm sure over the 9 years I've been up here, I've probably reached out to you a handful of times with people asking about specific properties that look like they're about to fall in on them, or right next door to their house and across the street. And I think if Chris has something that's kind of a plug and play.
I get calls, wouldn't say regularly, but often enough about different structures, buildings, houses that people consider to be nuisances, or just eyesores, whatever you want to call them. I think it's good for us to have some mechanism to do something about it.
I'm still working on yours, by the
Eric
way.
and I just had a conversation
Yes, we
about a
did.
week ago on this very subject, and explained all this to me. Of course, in my mind, I'm thinking of this. I just don't understand why we don't have this implemented already to take care of this problem, because it not only affects the whole community as far as property values and just the looks of the town. I mean, it's a nice little community, nice village, and it's tough to have these condemnable houses, and we don't have it set to do it. So I'm 100% for it.
Just don't come knocking on my door if I forget to cut my
Nah,
grass. for a
no,
couple
and
weeks.
let me say this, you know, if,
You got boys that can
no,
do
no,
it. Tell 'em.
and
Look,
a mow ordinance
what's
will
gonna
not
happen,
be
okay?
part of this. That is a completely separate discussion to have, and that's a much more, I think, detailed discussion to have. I have some ideas about, you know, but that's a different discussion. That's a totally, that's not gonna be put into this. That's a different deal. Because that's gonna get into all kinds of potential other issues that are beyond this conversation.
Like my wife thinking that I don't take good enough care of it, that someone thinks it needs to be torn down.
You know,
That's-
hey.
Well, it sounds like I'm in favor of this, and, you know, that's a very fair price. I was very surprised at that. There's a lot of work I know went into that, so it's, I think it's needed. It sounds thorough. I do want to work on those other ordinances. I really am surprised we don't have something that, I mean, Mobile even has one, and we can look at what they have. I know
Yeah.
somebody that got a $400 bill, so, a friend of mine told me about it, so, yeah. And I've complained to the mayor actually about some structures. Personally, I've complained about a couple of these that I
Well,
felt
and-
like need to be addressed.
Yeah, and to define though, one of the things, and I'll continue to have the conversation, unsightly or abandoned isn't necessarily condemnable, and I have that discussion with people all the time. And I hear, well, it's driving down my property values. Well, I understand that, but, you know, and then I go through the criteria. It has to meet these to be able to condemn it. So I'll still end up having those conversations with citizens.
Sure you will.
But this at least will give more criteria than just the 6, that the thing basically needs to be collapsing right now to be able to try to take some action.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Eric. All right, committee reports. Councilman Conyers,
No update at this time.
Councilman Robinson,
Same, no update.
Councilman Boone. I believe we had a rec board meeting. I think that's been since the last meeting, and we had some discussions on the results of, you know, our consultants. One of the questions they had, and just something for you to ponder is, you know, do you want to be do you want that to be for sports tourism, or do you not? And there's lots of pros and cons there. We'll be meeting on that again in the near future. The prevailing attitude on the rec board was that they, you know, obviously, and I think we've always said this, we want to take care of our rec first. Some of the things that could have been sports tourism in the past, we, you know, have maybe passed us by just due to a lot of development of facilities in the south end of the county, people that can, you know, house thousands and thousands of people for, you know, big, you know, money-making sports events. So there's still, you know, a little discussion to be had on that, so we need to discuss that. And I missed, we had a special called Airport Authority meeting last Tuesday. I missed it. Vince, Vince, can I yield to you? Were you at the meeting? Can you brief? There were some grant applications, right, that we needed for some FAA money, right, for the strengthening of the runway. Wasn't that one of them?
I was not there. Strengthen runway, taxi, airport lighting,
Right.
something we've been working on for about 5 years and finally got the grant funding.
I'll try to get some more information on that to the council. I was coming back into town that day. All right. We have a little time. So department heads, if you will give us your reports and cover your agenda items, if you will. Richard, you want to start? You probably have the bulk of the agenda tonight, right?
It's very rare when I do have the bulk, but it's only a few items, so thank you for the short agenda.
Yeah.
Item number 5, as you know, we came to y'all and asked for some kind of additional funding for the whole nature preserve to take care of some not only wayfinding signage, but the educational signage as well as furniture for the actual center itself. And one of the things that we did reach out to Rebecca Bryant, who's our current architect of record, was some services there to help develop some of those elements, as well as a kind of a landscaping plan for immediately around the nature center. It's just one of those things is that the park project had its limits of construction, and then you have the nature center, and there's kind of a halo around it that just, it was not picked up. We're going to self-perform as far as installing it, but we do want to make sure that we're specifying plants. Here's the good thing, this thing didn't go as quickly as we wanted, and we're here tonight. Justin needed to keep moving on furniture, and a vendor that's under one of the cooperative agreements, we provided them a floor plan, and they've helped design some layout as part of their services, hoping to get our business. So I don't think we'll expend the $49.90, but we are asking to amend that contract to include it so we can have all that in place by the time that the park opens in July. And I don't mean, I think John Thomas is going to talk on the temp employees, but the big issue there is hoppers in our sanitation department. So
What number are you on there?
Oh, excuse me, I jumped up to number 8.
Okay, thank you.
This is one of the few temp agencies that will put hoppers on the back of a sanitation truck, and that is probably one of the higher turnover jobs in public works. So to be able to get temps in there, and hopefully they turn out to be good employees and can become permanent employees. And then, John, you're going to talk about the chiller pumps, or you want me to handle it? I think there's, John's a very smart assistant public works director, let me tell you. The good news is the city only owns one chiller unit, and it's the library, and it's going to be the bane of every public works director's existence for the life of that chiller system. As you know, Public Works has been going through the process. We replaced one of the chiller units 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're replacing the second one, but unfortunately, the pumps are a separate item, and apparently we have lost a pump and the other one's going down. So George has requested roughly a little under $9,000 appropriation to go ahead and have those pumps replaced, because we're going to be putting a new chiller unit in there here shortcoming, and it just needs to be done. And unfortunately, when chillers give problems, it tends to be expensive. So, and then finally, as you know, the last meeting we let you know that we had already been under engineering design for Summit Street, and then we had that Friday afternoon rain event that caused that failure to really head cut and start undermining South Summit. So we asked for your permission to expedite the bid process, which we did. Chris Lieb, the engineer of record, worked furiously from the time that y'all said, okay, keep moving, and we got design plans out. We went to public bid. We held a pre-bid meeting last Tuesday, had great attendance, and we opened sealed bids this morning with 8 responses, 7 of them performing. And, it is, I think, comforting to know that the bottom 3 bids are each about 5% apart from each other. So I think that's where the number is, and we are requesting your consideration to award the bid to Asphalt Services in the amount of, as you see, we put a 20% contingency in there in the amount of $359,860.08. And let me tell you what the contingency is about. If between now and the time we get contracts issued and a contractor on site, if we have another 3 or 4 inch rain event, there's a good chance that we're going to lose a good portion of Summit. So we wanted to have enough cushion in there, since every pay item is already in it for asphalt and road buildup, because we're going to have to do some road cutting to repair it, that we can put it back together. But our goal is hopefully that we come in at that $299 number. And Chris he said he really tried to make sure that the field quantities were conservative, so hopefully we have some cushion already in that $299, but we wanted to build that contingency in because it takes us anywhere from our goals to have the contractor out there by June 15th, but that can be a very long time in the rainy season, so that's why we're asking for that. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You guys have any questions on that? I was pretty pleased with the bid results,
Well,
especially the number of them that you received.
We're seeing good things out there right now. I think contractors are remembering that we'll be here forever, and they're starting to show us love, so thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Good afternoon, council. Just to give you, the fire department's for fiscal year '25 has run 789 calls to date today. That's 89 calls behind where we were last year at the same time. So virtually equal. One of the most exciting things for us this year, we were able to get a donation for our training building. The training building was 30 to 35 years old, and we went to Single Tax with a presentation, and they graciously funded the whole project. We've been able to tear the old one down, and the construction on the new one starts in September, and it'll be done by first part of December. So very excited about that. Can't wait for that to be started and finished. I've got item 9 on tonight's agenda. It's physicals and cancer screenings for the volunteer firefighters. Cancer is one of the biggest problems in today's fire service. We are 9% have a 9% higher risk of being diagnosed with cancer than the general public, just because of the chemicals, the carcinogens, and toxin environments we're exposed to. So, does anybody have any questions or anything I can answer on that?
Have any questions? You used to have a copy of that contract? Not cheap.
No, sir.
Any questions for the chief?
All right, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
do, thank you.
Good evening. I've got item number 6, and this is to purchase 12 natural gas bypass pumps for 12 selected lift stations. This is, part of that is a grant. We did go over budget a little bit, but the bids came in very competitive, and I've been working with finance to pull some money.
Jenny, is that, the notes that you gave me, the language that's in the amendment needs to, so I need to read the new language that's not in our council binder, or?
The one line item, the Treasury Department has asked to add, to authorize the treasurer to transfer the $38,921 from the one account to line 10 lift station upgrades to the second account, which would be the bypass pumps for the lift stations. So they just want to add that additional line.
So when we get to that, council, we'll need to amend that, and I have the language that we'll want to add to that resolution, so please remind me.
I will.
Okay.
So there's another thing I want to talk quickly about. I've been talking with the mayor about, I can't remember if it was last meeting or the meeting before I came to you, excuse me, because we had a water line fail underneath Rock Creek, and we have our engineers working feverishly to get that designed and out for bid. While during our investigation, we found a sewer line that was exposed, the forced sewer main that was exposed in multiple places along that creek, and we want to get that replaced as well. So that's coming up. The engineer's working on a price, a scope of work. It's just one of those things, you dig deep and it gets deeper. But anyway.
It's deep.
But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but it'll be on the next agenda, if not that one, the one after that. But just want to give you a heads up. Anything else?
Any questions? Was that your only item?
I believe so.
Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. All right, is Wes, or someone from gas here?
Good evening. In Wes's absence, I'd be happy to address agenda number 7, but if I may first with department updates. I would like to congratulate one of our employees. He does not like the spotlight, but here it is anyways. Darren Knight has served the gas department for 35 years and 7 months. So I just think that speaks to his commitment to the city. And throughout his entire time here, he has showed up to work early, done his job without a lot of oversight, and we really appreciate his time with us. So I want to congratulate him publicly. Secondly, Cast Iron Phase 2 will be starting as soon as a contract completion and a pre-construction meeting has been completed. So we'll finally get that underway. Secondly, we did have an inspection from the federal government and state. That went great. The only thing that they mentioned to us was more signs and locate points, which I think that is a huge win for us, considering where we've come from over the years. The last thing is in reference to agenda item number 7, which I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. It's regarding a 4-inch relocation. If you're familiar with the area just south of 181 and 32, there's Gaineswood subdivision. There's a new subdivision going in just north of Gaineswood, which will actually connect to Gaineswood. So this relocation is due to 2 turn lanes. It has gone out for bid, which was approved through you all. And what we're requesting today is the reimbursement agreement and approval to go forward with that, because we have agreed to be, they agreed to reimburse us for that, as well as the inclusion of gas in the subdivision to all of their lots, which is around 200 lots.
So it's a pass-through cost, and I was very confused for a while until I spoke to the mayor as to why the Haven was involved with that, but it's Haven, it's not the Haven. So. Any questions, council?
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. And what, hey, 35 years, 7 months.
Yes, sir. 35 and 7.
Wow.
So, long time. We will be having a celebration for him. Like I said, he doesn't want it, but we're going to give it to him anyway.
That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. I think I'd mentioned that I'm seeing 1011, which is authorizing the submission of the grants for the airport authority. I did speak to Pell Henry, the chairman. He said they won't have any problems with the matching funds. There are some matches there, but they're doing very well financially, and that they will cover that. They're not seeking for the city to come in and contribute any funds for any of those matching portions. So item 12, Mayor, I'm not familiar with that.
Hello. So I was recently reached out to by Molly Spain from the Baldwin County Trail Builders Association. There is a program called Kids in Parks, and they are seeking out the ability to apply for the grant to get kids in parks. And what it would do for us is they would put a trailhead in our park telling all the different reasons why it's beneficial for kids to be outside in parks. So not only with that, we would be put on the, what was it called? The Track Trail website. So our Flying Creek Nature Preserve would be put on this nationwide website. Will be the first park, I believe, in Alabama on this website. And if you go to the website, there's a map of all the parks, and it ranges all the way from Seattle down to the bottom of Florida. So it'd be beneficial for us to be in it. But today, all they were asking for was a letter of approval to do it. So they aren't applying for the grant just yet. They need our approval saying that we support them for this. And that's what we're asking for, is just the approval to tell them, go ahead, apply for it. And I believe they have a deadline of June 6th to apply for it, so they need this letter of approval.
The signage and designation.
Yes.
We're not adding trails, right?
No, and it comes no cost to us. They'll be getting the grant.
3.6 more miles of bike trails in there.
Yeah. It's just a letter of support so they can come in and help promote our park themselves.
Okay, excellent. Everybody okay with that? Sounds good. All right. Let's see, let's take about a 5-minute break. I need to talk to our assistant clerk about a couple of add-on resolutions before we get started.